A billionaire suspects something is wrong at home. Instead of confronting anyone, he fires his driver and returns in disguise as a chauffeur. His goal? To quietly observe how his maid treats his baby. But more importantly, to see if his fiancée is truly the loving mother she pretends to be. At first, everything seems normal. The maid follows feeding schedules, comforts the baby, and keeps to her routine. The fiancé, however, gets irritated when the baby cries during her calls or fittings. Still, he waits, watching silently. But one day, in a shocking moment inside the garage, his fiancée orders the maid to place the crying baby inside the open trunk of the car, saying it's quieter and she has calls to make. That's when he can't stay silent anymore. He steps in, stops her, and slowly removes his hat and sunglasses. And what happens next changes everything. Before we continue with this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Oh, and don't forget to comment below where you're watching us from. We love to know that. Arthur Menezes was a billionaire who had made his fortune in the technology industry. He was smart, successful, and very focused on his work. Despite his busy life, he tried to keep things organized at home, especially now that he had a baby, Leo, and was engaged to Camilla. Things at home seemed normal until Camilla started to complain about the new housemaid, Anna. Camilla said Anna was being too critical and acting like she knew better when it came to taking care of the baby. She said Anna made comments that were out of place and that she seemed to always find something wrong. Arthur listened, but didn't think too much of it at first. He believed Camilla, trusting that she was doing her best as a new mother. He didn't want to create problems. But he also knew that Anna wasn't someone they had known for long, and that maybe she wasn't happy in the job or didn't understand the family's way of doing things. Even though Arthur wanted to avoid conflict, Anna didn't stop talking about her concerns. She told Arthur directly that Camilla was not following the doctor's advice. According to Anna, Camilla would let baby Leo cry for a long time without comforting him. Anna also said that the way Camilla handled the baby during bath time was not safe, and that Leo's meals were not being prepared the way the pediatrician had recommended. These were not small complaints, and Anna spoke with confidence. Arthur started to feel unsure. On one hand, he loved and trusted Camilla. On the other hand, Anna seemed genuinely worried about the baby's health. Arthur began to notice that the things Anna said were detailed. She was not just making vague comments, she gave examples and described situations that were hard to ignore. These things started to bother Arthur and stayed in his mind, even when he tried to focus on work. Arthur didn't know what to do. He was caught between two people, his fiancée, who was the mother of his child, and Anna, who was just an employee but seemed sincere. He didn't want to accuse anyone unfairly. He decided to talk to someone he trusted deeply, his friend and lawyer, Renato. Arthur explained everything, the complaints from Anna, his doubts about Camilla's behavior, and his concern for baby Leo. Renato listened carefully and said that if Arthur truly wanted to find out the truth, he should install more security cameras in the house. Renato believed that more cameras would help Arthur see what was really happening when he wasn't around. It seemed like a practical solution. That way, no one would need to know he was watching, and he wouldn't have to confront anyone without evidence. But Arthur didn't like the idea of spying on Camilla. It felt wrong to him and could damage their relationship even more. After thinking about Renato's suggestion, Arthur decided to take a different approach. He wanted to know the truth without causing direct problems or making anyone feel attacked. Instead of installing cameras or starting a fight, he came up with another plan. He would pretend to go away on a long business trip, something that would not seem unusual given his career. Then he would fire the family's official driver. After that, he would return to the house, but not as himself. Arthur would disguise himself and act like a new private driver hired by the family. This way, he could stay close to the house and see what was really going on when no one knew he was watching. It was a risky idea, but Arthur felt it was the only way to be sure about who was telling the truth, Camilla or Anna. He started planning every step in secret, careful not to alert anyone. Arthur worked hard to make his plan believable. He told Camilla he had to leave the city for an important project that would take several weeks. He arranged everything to look real, booked fake flights, created fake meetings, and even prepared emails that his assistants could send on his behalf while he was away. He then told the driver that his services would no longer be needed, giving a reasonable excuse to avoid suspicion. Once that was done, Arthur focused on his disguise. He changed his hairstyle, added facial hair, and wore clothes that made him look older and less polished than usual. He also used a different name and practiced speaking in a new way. When everything was ready, he applied for the job of driver under a false identity. Camilla, not knowing the real plan, approved the hire, and Arthur entered his own house as a stranger, ready to watch and learn. As the days passed, Arthur stayed quiet and observant. He did his job like any driver would, waiting outside, driving people around and keeping a low profile. Inside the house, he paid close attention to how Camilla treated the baby and how Anna behaved when no one was watching. It was not easy. Sometimes, Arthur wanted to step in when he saw something that made him uncomfortable, but he reminded himself that he was there to understand the truth. He started to see things from a new perspective. The job gave him a chance to watch small details, how long the baby cried, how meals were prepared, and how bath time was handled. He noticed things that matched Anna's stories. This made Arthur more confused, but also more determined. He didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it was clear that something was wrong. Every day he wrote notes and kept track of what he saw. Arthur began to feel the weight of his secret life. Pretending to be someone else in his own home was exhausting. He missed being close to Leo and being honest with Camilla. But the more time he spent observing, the more certain he became that the situation needed to be addressed. Anna continued to act the same, concerned and alert. Camilla, on the other hand, didn't know she was being watched, and her actions sometimes confirmed Anna's warnings. Arthur didn't want to believe that Camilla could be careless with their child, but the evidence started to build. He realized that he would soon need to stop pretending and face the truth. Whatever that truth was, it would change everything for his relationship, his family, and his future. Still, Arthur knew that protecting Leo was more important than anything else. He was ready to take the next step, no matter how hard it might be. The next day, Arthur put his plan into action. At breakfast, he told Camilla that he had to travel abroad for an important business trip. He said he would be meeting with investors and might be gone for several weeks. Camilla accepted the news without asking many questions. Arthur acted natural and calm, hiding his real intentions. Later that day, he spoke with the family's current driver. He explained that the job was ending, but not because of any problem. He offered a generous compensation and made a clear request. Everything had to stay secret. The driver agreed and promised not to tell anyone about the arrangement. Arthur wanted to make sure that no one suspected anything. At the same time, he contacted a small private car company and arranged to be registered as a new driver. This company would act as a cover. He told them it was a short-term job, and they agreed. Now, all that was left was to change his appearance and wait for the right moment. Arthur spent time working on his disguise. He cut his hair short, removed his beard, and wore large, dark sunglasses. He added a cap and put on a simple driver's uniform, making sure he looked nothing like the man he used to be. His clothes were plain and professional, just like a real private driver's. He even changed the way he stood and spoke to match the role. Everything was planned carefully. After making sure the company had all the details, Arthur waited a few days to make his entrance. Finally, he showed up at his own mansion, behind the wheel of a black sedan. The car looked formal, and it fit the style of someone hired to drive wealthy people. The company had introduced him to the house staff as the new driver replacing the last one. No one suspected anything unusual. Arthur felt nervous, but he knew he had to stay calm and play his part well if he wanted his plan to work. Anna was the first person to see him when he arrived at the house. She was standing near the garage, holding baby Leo in her arms. When Arthur stepped out of the car, Anna greeted him politely. She showed respect, but also looked at him with some curiosity, maybe trying to understand who this new person was. Arthur kept his voice steady and low, not wanting her to recognize him. Camilla soon appeared and took a quick look at him. She didn't show much interest. She simply said that drivers were there to do their job and follow instructions. Her tone was cold and distant, like she didn't think much of the people who worked for her. Arthur stayed quiet, letting her talk. He knew that staying unnoticed was important. He kept his eyes low and acted exactly how a new driver would. Meanwhile, baby Leo started to cry a little in Anna's arms. The baby didn't recognize him, which hurt, but Arthur had to ignore the feeling. Arthur stood there, looking down, listening to the sound of his son crying. It was strange to be so close to his own child and not be able to hold him or speak to him like a father, but he reminded himself that he had a reason for doing this. He needed to understand what was really going on in his home. He watched as Camilla gave short instructions and walked away. She didn't ask questions about his experience or try to learn more about him. It was clear that for her, the driver's role didn't matter beyond driving the car. Anna stayed behind, rocking baby Leo gently and whispering to calm him. Arthur noticed the care in her actions. He also noticed how tired the baby looked, as if he had been crying for a while. Arthur kept all this in mind. He needed to collect details, observe silently, and not reveal anything yet. Everything had to go according to the plan he had created. The first hours in the house as a driver were strange for Arthur. He felt like a stranger in a place that used to be his own. He walked around carefully, trying to memorize his new routine without drawing attention. Every movement had to be natural. He drove the car when asked, kept to himself, and spoke only when spoken to. During breaks, he waited in the garage or rested in the small room, prepared for staff. From there, he could sometimes hear voices from inside the house. He listened without making it obvious. Slowly, he started to see parts of the family's day that he had never noticed before. Camilla behaved differently when she thought no one important was watching. She gave orders without looking people in the eye and didn't spend much time with Leo. Anna, however, was always moving, always caring for the baby, always paying attention. Arthur continued to observe everything, not judging too fast, but storing each moment in his memory. Arthur remained focused on his goal. He knew that rushing would not help. His plan required patience. Each day he would learn a little more. He paid close attention to how Anna interacted with Leo, how she prepared his meals, how she handled bath time. At the same time, he noticed how Camilla reacted during those moments. Sometimes she ignored the baby's cries. Sometimes she seemed bothered by the noise. Arthur tried not to let his emotions take over. It was difficult. Watching all of this while pretending to be someone else was harder than he had expected. But he reminded himself again that this was necessary. He needed to know if Anna was telling the truth. He needed to be sure before taking any action. Slowly, Arthur started to feel the weight of his decision, but he knew he couldn't stop now. He had started something, and the only way forward was to keep going, to stay hidden, and to find out everything. In the first few days of his undercover role, Arthur focused only on doing what was expected of him. He followed the schedule carefully, arriving early and waiting in the garage as instructed. He opened car doors, responded politely, and kept quiet most of the time. His goal was to stay unnoticed while observing everything around him. As he waited or drove the car, he started to notice the rhythm of the house. Anna, the maid, was always busy with baby Leo. She followed a clear routine, feeding the baby on time, changing his diapers regularly, and holding him gently whenever he cried. Arthur could see that Anna took her job seriously and stayed close to the baby almost all the time. He also noticed Camilla's behavior. She became frustrated whenever Leo's crying interrupted something she was doing. Whether it was a phone call or choosing clothes, the noise seemed to bother her. Arthur paid attention to these reactions and began forming a picture in his mind of how things really were. During some mornings, Arthur saw moments that made him feel uncomfortable. Camilla would wake up and hand the baby to Anna with little emotion. She didn't spend much time with Leo, especially if she had personal plans or needed quiet. She often told Anna to keep the baby quiet because she needed silence upstairs. Arthur listened from a distance and didn't show any reaction. He had to stay in character, acting like a regular driver with no opinion, but inside he was alert. He noticed the tone Camilla used. It was cold and firm. She didn't want to be disturbed, and anything related to the baby seemed like a problem for her. Arthur also began hearing small complaints from Camilla. She didn't like the smell of baby cream left in the room or empty baby bottles on the table. Her voice sounded annoyed when she mentioned these things. She didn't yell, but her words were sharp, and she seemed irritated by anything related to Leo's care. Despite the strange comments and Camilla's behavior, Arthur still hadn't seen anything that completely proved Anna's earlier accusations. Nothing serious had happened in front of him yet. No major incident took place that showed neglect or danger. Arthur knew he had to be patient. He couldn't jump to conclusions just based on a few cold remarks or moments of impatience. Still, he kept observing everything. Every small detail mattered. He wrote down mental notes about the baby's routine, Camilla's actions, and Anna's efforts. He began to pay more attention to how often Leo cried and who responded first. It was usually Anna who picked him up, calmed him down, and handled the situation. Arthur kept all of this to himself. As far as anyone else could tell, he was just the quiet new driver, doing his job without asking questions. He always answered with, "Yes, ma'am," or, "Of course," keeping his voice calm and polite while watching everything carefully. When Arthur drove the family to different places, he used those quiet moments to continue his observations. From the driver's seat, he could see what was happening through the rearview mirror. Sometimes Anna sat in the back seat with Leo, carefully holding him and checking that everything was in place. Other times, he noticed Camilla using her phone without looking at the baby. The way they acted during car rides helped Arthur understand their priorities. Ina stayed focused on Leo, while Camilla seemed disconnected. Arthur didn't speak unless spoken to, but he remembered each trip and what happened during those rides. He also paid attention when they returned home. Anna always carried the baby, while Camilla walked ahead or talked on the phone. These small patterns started to form a bigger picture. Arthur didn't have clear proof of anything dangerous, but he was slowly seeing how daily life in the house really worked, and that picture didn't match what he had expected from Camilla. In the garage, Arthur spent long hours alone, thinking about what he was seeing. He didn't allow himself to relax too much. He remained alert, ready to listen to anything happening inside the house. When Anna passed by with the baby, Arthur stayed respectful, but watched her body language. She seemed tired, but never careless. She kept her focus on Leo at all times. He also noticed that Anna rarely took breaks. She seemed to always be doing something for the baby, even when no one was watching. Camilla, on the other hand, appeared only when necessary. Her attention was usually on her phone, her clothes, or her social plans. Arthur didn't want to believe that Camilla could really be distant with her own child, but that's what he was beginning to see. Still, he kept waiting, looking for something clear, something that would finally confirm the truth. Until then, he stayed quiet, doing his job and watching every move from the background. Arthur knew that keeping calm was important. If he reacted too soon or asked the wrong question, his plan could fall apart, so he continued acting like a regular employee. He said little, stayed on time, and followed every instruction. Each time he opened a door or drove the car, he reminded himself that he was getting closer to the truth. He didn't want to believe Anna's warnings too easily, but it was becoming harder to ignore the signs. The contrast between how Anna and Camilla treated the baby was visible. Anna was consistent, calm, and careful. Camilla was distant, easily annoyed, and more focused on herself. Arthur didn't know how things would end, but he knew he had to keep watching. There was no going back now. He had started this undercover role to protect his son, and that mission was still his priority. He would stay in this role until he had no doubts left. Only then would he decide what to do next. As the days went by, Arthur continued to live his double life as the house's new driver. He kept his routine simple, always arriving on time, staying quiet, and acting like he belonged in that role. During this time, Anna slowly began to speak more openly with him. At first, she only made small comments here and there, but soon she started sharing more detailed stories. These were the same things she had tried to tell Arthur before, only now she thought she was speaking to a new employee, not the man who had heard it all directly as her boss. One day she said that Camilla would often tell her to leave the baby in the stroller, far from the living room, especially when she was receiving guests. According to Anna, Camilla didn't want the baby near her friends and didn't want people talking about crying or baby noise. Arthur didn't respond, but he listened carefully. He pretended to just be polite, but inside he paid close attention to every word Anna said. Anna also mentioned other moments when she felt that Camilla acted irresponsibly. She told Arthur that sometimes the baby's bottle would be delayed, not because of any emergency, but simply because Camilla didn't want to stop her personal activities. There were days when she was having a massage or trying on dresses, and she didn't want to be disturbed. The baby had to wait. Anna said she tried her best to follow the schedule, but she didn't always have the final say. Arthur felt uneasy hearing this, but again, he stayed quiet. He wanted to gather all the information without alerting Anna. He began to notice how often she referred to printed instructions on the fridge. These were notes from the pediatrician, giving specific guidance on how to prepare the baby's food. Arthur stood nearby one afternoon and watched as Anna carefully followed the instructions while preparing Leo's meals. She measured everything with care and checked the paper more than once. She wasn't just doing her job, she was doing it with attention and precision. In contrast, Arthur started to see another side of Camilla. From the outside, she still looked like the perfect partner and mother. Whenever someone important came over, whether it was a family member, a friend, or a guest who might share photos, Camilla would suddenly become more involved. Arthur saw this happen more than once. Right before people arrived, Camilla would take the baby from Anna's arms, fix his clothes, and hold him for a few minutes. She smiled, posed for photos, and acted like a caring mother. But once the visitors were gone, she would give the baby back and go back to her own world. Arthur couldn't ignore these patterns. He saw them clearly. Still, he didn't know what to believe. Camilla had always shown herself as organized, elegant, and responsible. Could all of that really be just for show? Arthur wanted to be sure before making any decisions. He continued watching closely, hoping for clarity that hadn't come yet. Even though Arthur was hearing more from Anna and seeing more with his own eyes, he still felt torn. He didn't want to believe that Camilla would be careless with their child. It was a difficult idea to accept. After all, she was the mother. She had always been confident and composed in public. Arthur had seen how people admired her, how she always seemed to be in control. But the private moments were starting to show something different. Anna's stories didn't sound exaggerated. They matched what Arthur was now seeing. Delays in feeding, orders to keep the baby out of sight, and quick appearances just for photos. Arthur couldn't stop thinking about it. Every small thing Anna said made him look deeper. Still, he didn't speak out. He kept the act, answering respectfully when Camilla gave orders, continuing to drive her wherever she needed and waiting for the right moment. Inside, however, the conflict was growing. His trust in Camilla was being tested more and more each day. As the week went on, Arthur became even more focused. He was no longer just a man gathering information. He was a father trying to understand what kind of environment his son was growing up in. Every time Leo cried and Anna responded quickly, Arthur felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. Relief that someone was taking care of the child properly, and guilt that he wasn't doing it himself. He had chosen to hide in this role to protect his son, but it also meant being close without being able to act openly. Watching Camilla from this new point of view was difficult. When she smiled for a picture with Leo, Arthur could see how practiced it looked. When she spoke about needing peace and quiet, ignoring the fact that a baby needs care, he saw a different side of her, one that didn't match the woman he thought he knew. Still, he waited, not ready to confront her yet. He needed to be sure of everything first. Arthur's thoughts were now filled with questions he couldn't easily answer. Was Camilla truly uninterested in being a mother, or was she just overwhelmed? Was Anna exaggerating things, or was she being honest all along? Arthur didn't want to make a mistake. Accusing Camilla without proof could destroy their relationship. Ignoring Anna's warnings could mean putting Leo at risk. He felt stuck between two realities, the one Anna described with quiet concern, and the one Camilla showed to the world with charm and grace. So, Arthur did what he had been doing since the beginning of the plan. He stayed quiet, kept observing, and made mental notes of everything. He waited for something that would help him decide once and for all who was telling the truth. Until then, he would keep acting like the driver. He would keep opening doors, saying, "Yes, Mom," and watching his son from a distance, hoping the answers would become clear before it was too late. On a Saturday morning, Camilla gave clear instructions about her schedule for the day. She said she had a wedding dress fitting and a meeting with decorators. She wanted the car available the entire day, ready to take her anywhere without delay. Arthur, still disguised as the driver, received the full schedule. He stayed calm and professional, replying with a simple nod as if it were just another task. Before leaving, he helped with preparing the car, making sure the baby's car seat was properly installed in the back. Anna was already organizing the baby's things. She packed a diaper bag with all the essentials: clean diapers, baby wipes, bottles of milk, and extra clothes. She also brought a small towel and a pacifier. Arthur watched silently, noticing how efficient and focused Anna was, even with no one helping her. Camilla, on the other hand, was mainly concerned about her own plans. She didn't look at the baby much and gave short, direct orders before getting into the car and asking to be taken to the studio. During the drive to the fitting studio, Camilla seemed irritated. She was busy looking at her phone, checking messages, and adjusting her hair in the mirror. At one point, baby Leo began to cry in the back seat. The sound was soft at first, then became louder. Camilla frowned and sighed. She complained out loud that children made it hard to handle important commitments. She said that events like dress fittings became stressful because of the noise and interruptions. She didn't turn around to look at Leo, and she didn't offer any help. Anna, who sat beside the baby, tried to calm him down quietly. She gave him his pacifier and gently rocked the seat with her hand. Arthur listened to everything from the front. He kept his eyes on the road, but he heard every word. The comment about children interfering with social plans stuck in his mind. It was another piece in the growing puzzle that he was trying to understand day by day. When they arrived at the atelier, Camilla stepped out of the car quickly, checking the time and making sure her dress wouldn't wrinkle. Before walking inside, she gave more instructions. She told Anna not to stop or park nearby. She said the baby needed to sleep, and the best way was to keep driving around the area. She didn't want any distractions or noise around her meeting. Camilla said she would call when she was ready to be picked up. Then she left without waiting for a reply. Arthur got back in the driver's seat and started the car again. Anna sat in the back with Leo, who was still a bit unsettled. They began to drive slowly through the nearby streets. There was no destination, just loops around the block. For hours, Arthur kept the car moving, circling the area again and again, while Anna continued taking care of the baby, never once complaining about the situation. Inside the moving car, Anna managed everything alone. She rocked the baby when he cried, gave him a bottle when he was hungry, and changed his diaper using the back seat as a changing table. Arthur could see her from the mirror. She was calm and steady the whole time, even though they were stuck in a car for hours without stopping. Ina found ways to keep Leo comfortable. She hummed softly to him and used a small cloth to wipe his face. At one point, she held him close while making sure his head was supported. Arthur continued to drive at a slow pace, making turns, stopping at traffic lights, and following the same streets again and again. It wasn't easy. He started to feel tired and frustrated, but Anna didn't complain once. She focused only on the baby. Arthur realized that in that small space, Anna was doing everything a parent or full-time caregiver would do, with no help, no comfort, and no rest. The hours felt long. Time passed slowly as the car moved through the same area over and over. Arthur kept checking the mirror, watching Anna care for Leo without asking for anything. She didn't request a break, didn't say she was tired, and didn't show any signs of stress. When the baby finally fell asleep, she gently adjusted the blanket and sat quietly beside him, making sure he stayed comfortable. Meanwhile, Camilla didn't send any messages or updates. She remained at the fitting studio, likely enjoying her time, while Anna and Arthur were left handling everything on their own. Arthur couldn't help but think about the difference in behavior. Camilla had not asked once about how the baby was doing. She didn't check if he had eaten or if he was resting well. That contrast became more and more clear to Arthur. He didn't say anything out loud, but the scenes from the day stayed in his mind. They were quiet, but powerful moments. Finally, after many turns and several hours, Camilla called and said she was ready to be picked up. Arthur drove back to the studio, still silent, still playing his role. When Camilla got into the car, she didn't ask how things had gone. She didn't look at the baby or speak to Anna. She just gave the next location for her meeting with decorators. Arthur started driving again. Anna sat in the back, holding Leo, who had just fallen asleep again. The car continued moving, and Arthur stayed focused on the road, but his mind was full. The day had shown him a lot without needing anything dramatic to happen. It was enough to see who stepped in when the baby needed attention and who didn't. Arthur now had more to think about. What he had seen in the car was real. He couldn't ignore it. And even though he was still pretending to be someone else, he was closer to understanding the truth than ever before. A few days later, Camilla informed everyone in the house that she had a quick visit planned to see a friend who lived in a nearby gated community. She wanted to leave early and clearly said that the car should be ready and waiting outside at exactly 9 in the morning. She didn't want to deal with delays or any kind of waiting. Arthur, as usual, received the instructions quietly and made sure the car was clean and prepared. Camilla added that she didn't want to bring the baby's stroller, saying the visit would be short and that they would only stop at the entrance of the friend's house. She didn't want to carry too much or take extra time with baby equipment. Ina, always cautious, said that the baby should still travel in the car seat for safety, Arthur, still in his role as the driver, supported Anna's concern and reminded Camilla that using the baby seat was required by law. He said it calmly but firmly, staying in character. Camilla didn't like the interruption. She let out a small complaint, saying it was too much trouble for such a short drive. But after a few seconds, she gave in and agreed, though her expression showed clear annoyance. She didn't argue further but made it obvious she wasn't happy. Anna quickly placed Leo in his car seat and secured everything. Arthur kept the car steady and started the drive, which didn't take long. As planned, they stopped only at the entrance of the house, where Camilla got out and stayed for a short time. Anna stayed in the car with the baby, while Arthur waited quietly in the driver's seat. The whole situation was calm, but Arthur could feel the tension. He noticed how Camilla often resisted anything that involved effort or time when it came to the baby. Even something basic, like using a car seat, became a problem. He said nothing but made a mental note of her reaction, adding it to everything else he had already seen. On the way back to the house, the baby started to get fussy. At first, Leo made soft noises, but as the car reached the mansion and stopped in the garage, his cries became louder and more intense. Arthur turned off the engine and waited, thinking Camilla might respond to the baby's crying. Instead, she reacted with frustration. She turned around and looked at Anna with an irritated face. She didn't ask what was wrong with the baby or try to help. Instead, she seemed bothered by the sound, as if it was disrupting something more important. Without thinking too much, Camilla stepped out of the car, walked to the back and opened the trunk. She looked inside, saw that it was empty except for a few bags, and made a decision that shocked Arthur. She said that the trunk would be a better place for the baby to calm down because it was dark and quiet, and she didn't want noise inside the house right now. Camilla then told Anna to hurry and place Leo in the trunk. She explained that she had urgent phone calls to make upstairs and didn't want the crying to interrupt anything. Anna looked confused and uncomfortable, but Camilla insisted. She gave the order clearly, not as a suggestion, but as something to be done immediately. Arthur stayed in his seat, watching the scene unfold. He didn't say anything, but inside, he felt deeply uncomfortable. He wanted to step in, but knew that acting too soon could risk everything he had planned. He watched as Anna carefully picked up the crying baby and with clear hesitation placed him inside the open trunk, laying him gently between the empty suitcases. She did her best to make the space soft and safe, but there was no doubt that this was not a place for a baby. Arthur could see the pain on her face, and it matched what he was feeling too. After giving her instructions, Camilla walked away without looking back. She went upstairs quickly, already focused on her phone and the calls she had to make. Arthur stayed behind in the garage, stunned by what had just happened. He kept his expression blank, but his thoughts were racing. The situation had reached a new level. It was no longer just about missed bottles or delayed feedings. What he had just seen felt wrong on a different scale. He knew the trunk was not a safe or suitable place for a child, no matter how short the time. The fact that Camilla could think it was acceptable even for a moment showed him something serious about her mindset. She wanted peace and silence more than she wanted to comfort her own child. Arthur had already seen signs before, but now he had witnessed something that would be impossible to ignore or forget. He sat still in the driver's seat, processing what it all meant. Anna stood by the trunk, not moving far, staying close to Leo. She kept checking to make sure he was okay, gently rocking the suitcase next to him and whispering soft words. Arthur could see that she was doing her best to keep him calm and safe, even in a place that was clearly not meant for him. He realized how much Anna had been handling day after day without complaining or giving up. She followed orders, but she also protected the baby in every way she could. Arthur stayed quiet, but the weight of what he had just seen stayed heavy in his chest. This moment was clear and direct. It showed the difference between the woman who gave birth to Leo and the one who was truly caring for him. There was no more space for doubt. Arthur didn't know exactly what he would do next, but something had changed inside him. The line had been crossed, and from now on things could not go on the same way. Anna stood still for a moment, shocked by what she had just heard. It took her a few seconds to fully understand the order Camilla had given her. She wasn't expecting it and didn't know how to respond right away. Her eyes moved quickly from Camilla to the baby and then to the open trunk. Camilla, clearly impatient, repeated her words in a sharp tone, saying it would be just for a few minutes and that Anna should stop hesitating. To prove her point, Camilla leaned forward and gently placed baby Leo on the edge of the trunk's floor. She adjusted a small towel and said it was only temporary, insisting that it was quiet and dark inside, and the baby would calm down faster there. Anna looked uncomfortable, but she didn't speak. She seemed afraid of doing the wrong thing or being accused of refusing an order. She glanced at Arthur, who was only a few steps away, still wearing his cap and sunglasses, watching everything in silence. Arthur could feel the tension in the air. He had seen many uncomfortable situations before, but this one was different. The trunk wasn't just an odd place. It was dangerous and completely inappropriate for a baby. As he stood close to the car, he could hear Leo crying louder now, the sound bouncing in the garage and making the moment feel even more intense. The car trembled slightly from the baby's movements, and Arthur could feel it through the ground. His heart started to beat faster as he watched Camilla slowly push the baby further inside the trunk, trying to make space for him to lie flat. That was the moment Arthur decided he could not wait any longer. He moved quickly toward the car and grabbed the trunk's door before Camilla could close it. His action was fast and clear. Without raising his voice, he said the space was not safe for a baby and warned that the ventilation system inside the trunk could shut and cause problems. Camilla turned to him immediately, her expression full of anger. She didn't expect the new driver to interfere, and she didn't like being questioned. She raised her voice and shouted at Arthur, accusing him of overreacting. She said he was just a driver and had no right to speak about how she handled her own child. She insisted again that it was only for a few minutes and that the baby would be fine. Arthur didn't move. He stayed in his position, holding the trunk door open. He repeated calmly that the area was not designed for a child and that it could become dangerous in ways that weren't visible right away. Camilla became more aggressive in her words, saying that if Anna didn't follow instructions, she would be fired immediately. She looked at Anna with cold eyes and demanded action. Anna stood still, looking at the baby, clearly uncomfortable and unsure of what to do next. The baby was still lying on the mat inside the open trunk. Anna's face showed clear hesitation. She wasn't comfortable, but she also didn't want to lose her job. Arthur looked at her briefly, giving a subtle shake of his head as if to say, "Don't do it." But he couldn't break his cover yet. He had to stay in his role as the driver, and any personal reaction could ruin everything. He continued holding the trunk door, standing between Camilla's order and the baby's safety. Camilla, furious, began blaming Anna directly, saying she was tired of being questioned and that the staff needed to obey without debate. Her voice became sharper, and she pointed at Anna, saying this was unacceptable. Meanwhile, Leo kept crying. His little arms moved around, and his face was red from frustration. No one was comforting him. Arthur felt helpless but stayed calm, using facts to stop the situation rather than emotions. He kept repeating that the trunk wasn't safe and should not be used for anything involving a baby, no matter how short the time. Camilla refused to back down. She crossed her arms and stared at Arthur like he was challenging her authority. She asked him who he thought he was to stop her and said she would call the agency to request his removal. Arthur apologized in a controlled way, still acting like a professional, but didn't move. He said his responsibility as a driver included the safety of everyone in the car, including the baby. His words were polite, but his tone made it clear that he wouldn't allow the trunk to be closed with the child inside. Anna finally took a step closer to the car, not saying anything, but she slowly reached for the baby. Camilla turned her anger back toward her, reminding her that she was being paid to follow instructions, not question them. Anna's hands shook slightly as she lifted Leo from the trunk, holding him tightly against her chest. The baby was still crying, but his breathing calmed a little once he was in her arms again. For a moment, there was silence. Camilla looked frustrated and embarrassed, but she didn't say anything else. Arthur stepped back without turning away, letting Anna handle the baby. He knew this could not continue. What had happened was serious and crossed a line. There was no more space for confusion or doubts. Camilla's reaction, her orders, and her lack of care had been clear. Arthur stayed still for a few more seconds, watching Anna gently rock Leo and whisper to him. Camilla stood by the door, angry but without anything more to say. The tension in the garage remained heavy, but the moment had passed. The baby was out of the trunk, safe in Anna's arms, and Arthur had done what he could without revealing who he really was. Inside, he felt something had changed permanently. There was no way to forget what he had just seen. That image and Camilla's words were now part of a truth he could no longer ignore. Arthur felt that the situation had reached a point he could not ignore. The tension in the garage, the baby crying, and Camilla's reaction were too much for him to continue pretending. Without raising his voice, he asked Anna to hold Leo close and move away from the trunk. His tone was calm but firm, and Anna followed immediately, stepping back with the baby in her arms. Arthur then reached for his cap and removed it slowly. After that, he took off his sunglasses. The movement was deliberate, giving Camilla time to notice him. At first, she kept complaining, still focused on defending her decision, but her voice changed the moment she recognized his face. She froze, her expression turning from irritation to shock. For several seconds, she did not speak. She looked at him as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her first words came out confused, asking what he was doing there and why he wasn't abroad like he had said he would be. Arthur didn't hesitate. He kept his posture steady, no longer acting like a driver, but also not raising his voice. He explained in a direct way that he had never traveled. He said the trip was a story he created because he needed to observe things without interference. He told her he had returned disguised so he could see how Leo was treated when no one thought he was watching. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. He said he had heard every comment Anna made, every report about delays in feeding or instructions ignored, and every complaint that the baby's crying was inconvenient. He had listened to everything because Anna had tried to warn him before, and he hadn't taken her seriously. That was why he decided to come back this way, so he could see the truth with his own eyes. As he spoke, Camilla looked around as if searching for something to defend herself, but Arthur continued without giving her space to change the subject. The atmosphere grew heavier as Arthur finished explaining. Camilla tried to interrupt him several times, but he didn't stop talking until he said everything he needed to say. When he finally ended his sentence, she tried to react. Her first instinct was to deny. She repeated quickly that he had misunderstood, that things weren't as they seemed, and that she had everything under control. Her tone was shaky, not confident like before. She said he had appeared suddenly and caught her in a moment that looked worse than it truly was. Arthur didn't respond right away. He watched her struggle to find an explanation. She said the situation with the trunk was part of a joke, something she meant as a silly idea, and that she would never put Leo in danger. She insisted that it had all been misinterpreted and that he was reacting as if he had walked into a dramatic scene that wasn't real. As Camilla tried to explain herself, the sound of footsteps echoed in the garage. The commotion had drawn attention. A security guard from the house, alerted by the raised voices and the tense atmosphere, approached the group. He slowed down when he saw Camilla, Anna and Arthur standing around the open trunk, with the baby still crying loudly in Anna's arms. The guard looked confused, unsure if he should step closer or wait for instructions. Camilla noticed him and quickly tried to take control of the situation. She told him everything was fine, that there was no problem, and that it was all a misunderstanding. Her voice was sharp and defensive, as if trying to hide the tension that had been building. The guard stayed nearby, watching carefully, clearly not convinced everything was normal. With the guard now present, Camilla changed her approach. She softened her voice and attempted to reshape the story. She said the whole thing had been a poorly planned joke meant to distract Leo and help him stop crying. She claimed she was never going to close the trunk and that no one was supposed to take it seriously. She insisted that things looked worse than they were and that Arthur had walked in at the wrong moment. She smiled nervously, trying to make the situation appear harmless. But Arthur didn't respond to her attempt to rewrite the moment. He stood still, and his silence made it clear he didn't accept her explanation. Anna also stayed quiet, holding Leo close, watching everything with a worried expression. The guard stayed near the door, still unsure if he should intervene or step back. Camilla kept talking, trying to make her version sound believable, but her words felt forced. Arthur didn't argue or raise his voice. He simply watched her, the disappointment clear in his eyes. He had given her a chance to show care for their child, and instead, he had found something he couldn't ignore. The more Camilla tried to explain away her actions, the more obvious it became that she didn't have a convincing explanation. The noise of Leo's crying made the moment even heavier. Arthur took a step forward and looked at the baby in Anna's arms, then at the open trunk. The truth was right in front of him, and nothing Camilla said could erase what he had seen. His silence spoke louder than any accusation. The scene remained tense, with Camilla trying to control the story, Arthur refusing to accept lies, and Anna holding the crying child while the guard looked on, waiting for someone to decide what would happen next. Inside the garage, the air felt thick and uncomfortable. Nothing dramatic was said, but the silence had its own weight. Arthur finally turned to Anna and asked her in a calm voice to take Leo upstairs and keep him comfortable. Anna nodded and walked away slowly, leaving Arthur and Camilla facing each other. Camilla watched Anna leave with the baby, her expression full of fear that things were slipping out of her control. She tried again to speak, but Arthur didn't react. He stood still, processing the last few minutes. His decision to end the disguise had come suddenly, triggered by something he couldn't ignore. Now the truth was exposed, and there was no way to return to the way things were before. Camilla stood in front of him, still trying to repeat the same explanation, but Arthur already knew what he had seen. He didn't need more words. The moment had been clear, and the reality of it was something he could no longer escape. Arthur stayed calm, even with the tension still thick in the garage. He turned to the security guard and asked him, in a steady and controlled tone, to escort Camilla to the main living room. His request was not loud or aggressive, but it carried authority. The guard nodded immediately and gestured for Camilla to follow. Camilla hesitated, confused and offended, but eventually walked toward the house with the guard beside her. Arthur then looked at Anna and asked her to stay close with the baby. Anna held Leo securely against her chest, keeping him calm as best she could. The three of them moved toward the interior of the mansion, where Arthur waited for the next step. Minutes later, Renato, the family lawyer and Arthur's trusted friend, arrived at the house. He had been called urgently by phone, and his face showed he already understood something serious had happened. He entered the room quietly, carrying a folder filled with documents. With everyone present, Arthur, Anna with the baby, Camilla, the security guard, and Renato, Arthur began to explain what had happened. His voice remained calm but firm. He described everything exactly as it unfolded in the garage. How Camilla insisted on placing the baby in the trunk, how she pushed him deeper inside, how she ignored his crying, and how she became angry when he tried to stop her. He also mentioned that these actions were not isolated. He explained that Anna had given multiple warnings in the past about the way Leo was being treated, and that he had ignored those warnings until now. Arthur made it clear that what he saw with his own eyes left no more space for doubt. As he spoke, Camilla kept interrupting, saying he was exaggerating and twisting the situation, but Arthur continued until he finished his full account. Renato listened carefully, taking note of each detail. When Arthur finished, Renato opened the folder he had brought. Inside were several documents prepared in advance, based on the possibility that this day might come. He placed them on the table and explained each one. The first document was the cancellation of the engagement contract, ending all legal obligations related to the relationship. The second removed all powers of attorney that Arthur had granted Camilla in the past, meaning she no longer had authority over any financial or administrative matter. The third document suspended all company-linked credit cards that had been under her name. Renato spoke clearly, making sure Camilla understood the seriousness of the situation. He added that the security cameras in the garage had recorded the entire incident. If needed, those images could be included in legal proceedings. The mention of the recordings made Camilla stiffen, her expression shifting from anger to fear. Camilla reacted immediately. She said the version being told was distorted. She insisted again that everything had been misunderstood, that it had been just a moment of stress or a joke taken out of context. But when Renato asked her directly why the baby was lying in the open trunk, she had no answer. She tried to speak, stopped, tried again, and finally fell silent. Each attempt to defend herself fell apart as soon as the details were questioned. The truth was too clear, and every witness in the room knew what they had seen or heard. Arthur didn't argue with her. He simply let the silence grow between her excuses and reality. Anna stayed quiet as well, gently rocking Leo, who had finally calmed down in her arms. The room felt heavy, and the only sound was the baby's soft breathing. Renato then stated that the decisions were final. Camilla listened, but her face showed disbelief, as if she still hoped the situation could be reversed. Arthur, however, remained firm. There was no anger in his voice, only certainty. He told her that his priority was Leo's safety and that what had happened could not be ignored or justified. The consequences were clear, and nothing she said was enough to change what had already happened. He instructed the security guard to stay with her while she gathered her personal belongings. Camilla looked around the room, realizing that no one was supporting her story and no one believed her attempts to reshape the events. Her posture changed. She no longer shouted or argued. She simply nodded stiffly and walked out of the room with the guard following behind her. Outside the main living area, the atmosphere remained tense. Camilla walked upstairs to collect her things, the security guard standing at the doorway to ensure everything went smoothly. She moved quickly, no longer protesting, filling a few bags with clothes and valuables. When she came back downstairs, she avoided looking at anyone. Arthur stayed in the living room with Anna and Leo, refusing to watch the final moments of her departure. The guard escorted Camilla through the front door and across the large driveway until they reached the main gate of the residence. She stopped once, looking back at the house, but no one approached her. The gate opened and she stepped outside, leaving the property behind. As the gate closed, the quietness of the house returned, but it was not the same as before. Something had changed permanently, and everyone in the room knew it. Arthur stood still, holding the weight of the decision he had made, knowing it was necessary. After Camilla left the house, things became quiet. The once tense atmosphere started to settle, but there was still a lot happening behind the scenes. A few employees stayed around to keep the house running smoothly, and Renato's office team remained on site for some time to help with legal documents and final confirmations. Papers needed to be signed, accounts had to be updated, and the removal of Camilla's access to various systems had to be completed properly. Arthur stayed calm during all of this. He didn't show emotion, but he was clearly focused on making sure everything was handled correctly. Once the legal matters were under control, Arthur turned his full attention to Anna and the baby. He asked Anna to join him in the living room, bringing Leo with her. They sat down, and Arthur took a deep breath. He looked serious, but his voice was soft. He wanted to talk clearly and honestly about everything that had happened over the past days. Arthur began by explaining why he had acted the way he did. He told Anna that when she first came to him with concerns about Camilla's treatment of the baby, he didn't want to believe it. He thought maybe things were being misunderstood or exaggerated. Instead of confronting the situation right away, he decided to observe it himself. That was why he created the story about the business trip and returned to the house in disguise. He admitted that it wasn't easy watching everything silently, pretending not to be the baby's father, but he had needed to be sure. Arthur apologized for not trusting her sooner. He said he now fully understood that her concerns had always been real and important. He thanked her sincerely for everything she had done to protect Leo. He said he was grateful for her patience, her calm attitude, and the way she had continued to care for the baby, even under pressure. After explaining himself, Arthur continued by giving Anna some news. He said that he wanted her to stay in her position. Her job was secure, and he had no doubts about her anymore. He told her that her salary would be increased immediately as a way to recognize her work and responsibility. He also offered to adjust her working hours so she could have more time to rest. He noticed how much she had been doing, how many long days she had worked without complaining. Now that things were changing in the house, he wanted to make sure she didn't carry the same pressure alone. Arthur also told her that he would be hiring a new driver, this time a real one, not part of a secret plan. This person would handle all travel needs in a normal way, so Anna could focus on her duties with Leo without extra burdens. Everything in the household would be restructured to make it healthier and more stable. Anna listened quietly, holding Leo in her arms. She didn't say much at first, but her face showed relief. It was clear that she had been under stress for a long time, especially during the days when she had to protect Leo without knowing who truly supported her. Now, with Arthur's words, she felt safe again. She nodded when he spoke about her job and the changes to come. She said thank you in a soft voice and promised to continue doing her best. Arthur smiled, just a little, and said that from now on, things would be different. There would be no more secrets, no more tension, and no more ignoring what was really happening. Leo's well-being would always come first. Arthur then stood up and offered to take Leo for a while, so Anna could rest or do other things. She handed the baby to him, and for the first time in days, it felt like the house was starting to become normal again. Later that afternoon, Anna returned to her regular tasks, but with a different feeling. She wasn't rushing or looking over her shoulder. She moved around the house calmly, preparing bottles for Leo, folding clean clothes, and tidying the baby's room. Everything she did with care, just like before, but now without fear. Meanwhile, Arthur stayed close. He didn't leave Anna alone to manage everything anymore. He watched how the formula was prepared, how the bottles were checked, and how the baby's things were arranged neatly. He didn't interrupt or take over, but he observed with interest, wanting to learn. He asked a few questions about feeding times and sleep routines. Anna answered patiently, showing him what she knew. For the first time, Arthur felt like he was truly present, not just as someone who gave instructions, but as a father trying to be involved in the small daily parts of his child's life. He knew that's what mattered most now. As the day continued, Arthur found himself enjoying simple moments he had missed before. When Leo woke up from a nap, Arthur picked him up gently, held him, and walked around the living room to help him settle. He noticed how light the baby felt, how his eyes moved slowly when he was sleepy. These were things he had not paid attention to in the past. He had been too busy or too focused on other things to notice the small details. Now, with everything that had happened, he saw how important they were. Anna came back into the room and smiled when she saw Arthur with the baby. There was no more tension between them. Things felt more open. Arthur knew it would take time to rebuild everything, but he had taken the first steps. He had removed someone who was not helping his son grow in a safe environment. He had listened to someone who cared deeply. And now he was ready to be a better father, one day at a time. Finally, we've reached the end of this story. I'm extremely happy that you've made it this far. Thank you very much for watching. Comment below what you thought and what was the best or worst part. Now that you've finished watching this incredible story, click on my profile picture and access my videos. I'm sure you'll be enchanted by all the good stories about justice and kindness. Enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.